Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me today on this very first live session on YouTube. It means a lot, and I really appreciate your responses, your input, and your comments so far. You already know what we're talking about today. Benefits of being a creative, and in all honesty, right? There's a lot of information and a lot of benefits to expressing and exploring our creative side. And the truth is, all through this session, I'll be going through a couple of a breakdown of what we're going to be doing. So first, I'll just quickly talk about technology usage and why I think it's a little bit problematic, what technology actually does for us. Yes, there are a ton of benefits, but then if used too much, the benefits and, the downsides. And then I'll go ahead to talk about what creativity is and then understand how you can be mindful as a creative. Then after that, I'll go quickly into talking about, what happens when you don't explore your creative side, and then go into detail on, the benefits of actually being a creative, which is like the subject matter for today. And to wrap it all up, we'll do like a quick, suggestion and tips on how you can actually start your creative career, the things you need to watch out for, and how much of, details you need to actually consider when starting out in this field. Now, I would really appreciate that you put your comments or your questions, maybe write them down somewhere. So by the end of the session, we'll have like a quick Q&A and contribution session where you get to, be part of everything that is happening right now. So let me just jump right into it. So first, talking about technology, is it good or bad? Now, I've said in a couple of videos in the past and a couple of episodes on my podcast that technology seems to be on the high rise and it has a ton of benefits. Trust me, just that very small smartphone can do a lot of things. But then the truth is, in the world of so much of buzzing, so much of social media, and all these news and hyper activities happening online, it can get draining that you start to enter a rabbit hole of Twitter feeds, YouTube videos, podcast, Facebook, and all the amazing things, not to talk of Instagram. But then the truth is, I recently discovered that if we have a conscious effort to detach ourselves from technology in a way, maybe like the first few hours of you waking up, it kind of opens up a lot of possibilities for the kind of life you live and for the kind of day you would have. Like, take, for example, the first set of hours, let's say the first 2 hours of your day, you spent, reading a book, doing meditation, studying your Bible if you're a Christian, or connecting with your true self or your inner self. You kind of set the tone for the day. You just don't enter into the rush of the day, social media and all these other things. It kind of gives you this space to reflect, to sit back and, really be in the moment. Because the moment you get on your phone or on your devices, you're already caught up in a world that is virtual. And this can be, really annoying if you don't control it. Now, for some persons who has never experienced creative block or social media addiction, you might not really understand what I'm saying. But when I experienced social media addiction a couple of years ago in 2017, I couldn't go, 5 seconds without tapping my phone to wake. Like, if my phone is missing, it's like my entire life is gone, the way I would look for it. And then that was when I started to realize that there is something needs to be done about this. So now, so far, so good. I've actually found that time slows down more when you detach yourself from your devices. In all honesty, if you're reading a book, trust me, it will be as if it will be as if time is not moving at all. But then once you get on your phone, it's like time is just moving so fast. So, in my experience, I would say that so much of the usage of social media or technology reduces creativity in a way. It may seem as though I'm trying to feed you a couple of bullshit, but trust me, the tons of images, text, emotions from social media posts alone can get overwhelming. But at the end of the day, it actually means that, your brain isn't really creating anything meaningful. All it's just doing is consuming, and then you don't have time to create. So detaching yourself from the media or from technology sometimes gives you the space to create. Like, some nights I just leave my phone somewhere and then I just start writing and jotting down things in my head. So in general, what you can take away from this entire talk right now is think about ways in which you can, have a non-screen time or non-technology time, how you can reduce that. And if you can reduce that easily, then it really help you push further and start to experience more of your personal and your human side. So if you want to actually get more details about this, you can check out the video I made called, what I learned from quitting social media for 2 weeks And then you can also check out social media detox. And there's the last one, which is decluttering your life as a creative. So a couple of all these things, you can learn a couple of things from, those things. Now, the next thing now you need to understand is, what is creativity? This might be very hard to define because creativity in itself is quite abstract. But then, so I have here that Oxford Dictionary defines creativity as the use of imagination or original ideas to create something, inventiveness or something. So it's in quotes, inventiveness. You've been able to draw up something from nothing, being able to create something out of nothing, which is like the entire foundation of my creative career, the simple creative. There is so much of eagerness to want to jump into the world and start performing amazing things. But then the truth is, creativity can be channeled and owned in a ton of different ways. Like, it doesn't have a limit. Trust me, it doesn't have a limit. It's like you have a blank canvas and you're told to paint it whichever way you see fit. Now, the way you paint your own canvas might be different from the way someone else paints their own canvas. But the truth is, it's all up to you. So you define the way you express your creativity. And it could be read in several ways. So the way you do your own thing might be different from the way someone else does their own things. Now, creativity didn't start from, one person. Well, in the actual sense of it, it started from the creator, because for us to actually be the person we are right now, someone created us. So creativity started from the very foundation of the earth or of the world. And if you can trace it back to that very beginning, you realize that there is so much that has happened that if only you can open your mind a little bit this big, you'll be able to experience so much vastness in what the world calls richness or creativity. So a lot of creative persons today talk about what creativity is, how creativity is amazing and all those extra things. But then please don't complicate things for yourself. Creativity is as simple as what you do every day, but then taking into account of the problems you solve. How you can create something from nothing to solve a problem. In my own definition, that is what creativity is. And it also involves a lot of you doing nothing to actually experience some level of creativity. Think about it this way. Creativity entails two things: thinking, then producing. So you think, you brainstorm, you try to come up with ideas, and then after coming up with these ideas, you go ahead and create and execute. But then without execution, the very first process of thinking is as worthless as anything. So the main work is in the execution, because the thinking part might not be all that difficult. Because some people are just naturally artistic or creative and all these other things. But creativity can actually be, it can be developed. Even though it is innate in every human, but it can be developed. So to paraphrase a quote from Picasso, he says that creativity washes from the soul the dust of everyday life, which means every single day you can express creativity. So now, trying to link creativity to mindfulness, like I said at the very beginning, being mindful is not just about, a monk sitting down with two fingers up, doing all those meditation, and all those extra things. Mindfulness is just a way to, really carve out a state of being conscious and aware of something, a state of you being aware of yourself, of your environment, of the next person sitting beside you, of the way the birds are flying, or of the way something is happening. It's just you being aware. So it's a quality or state of being aware or being conscious of something. So how can you now connect creativity and mindfulness? Trust me, a lot of ideas that people develop, a lot of brainstorming sessions require you to have a still mind to be able to craft out the best of the best ideas. Even though at first it might not be your best ideas, but later on, after going over it again, meditating, thinking deeply about these things, it starts to develop into something much more, tangible, that you can now say, yes, I had an idea about this, but then later on it became this, it became that, and now it is something remarkable. So mindfulness connects deeply with creativity, because it's only in that calm state, in that state of awareness and mindfulness, that you can actually experience your innermost being as a creative. Now, don't get this wrong. Everybody is creative, but not everybody is a creative. Now, a creative is like a niche that has been carved out for people who love to, be by themselves, do creative work, gaze into thin air and all those other things. Like the entire world couldn't find any better name to call us than to call us creatives. It's quite interesting. There's some people that are called doctors, some people are called engineers, some people are called architects and all those other things, civil servants and the rest. But then there's a group of persons who are trying to break the norm that then they're now carved out as creatives. You should be lucky and you should feel special because, you are a part of this very vast generation that is growing and changing the way things are happening. Think about the past decade. Everything that's happened that has been making waves in the entire world today have been done by creatives. All these things have been done by creatives. So how much more you decide to really focus on that part of you and start to draw out creative ideas from yourself. Now, there are several types of, ways people can actually think to come up with ideas. But then there is one called the divergent kind of thinking. And then the other part is called the convergent type of thinking. Now, I've done a couple of experiments in the past that really made me realize this. And the divergent type of thinking kind of shows a thought process or a method that you generate creative ideas by exploring many possible solutions. But then the other part, which is convergent thinking, is like you're enhanced by your mindfulness. So you decide to really bring it from inside out, which is convergent. But then the divergent part is like you trying to solve it from outside in. So you see a problem and then you want to solve it. But then the other part is you discover that there's something within you, there's that passion you want to bring out, and then you bring it out of yourself. And you start to see how these two work together. You can't really separate them. You have to actually be able to exhibit both types of thinking, because if you spend your entire life trying to see if you can only be bringing things from inside out, what if you have a problem that is on the outside that you need to actually solve? So you need to be able to focus on this. And at the end of the entire session, there's a particular quiz I would like you guys to actually take with me. I'll put up the links in the description so you can actually have access to that. And then, there are a couple of benefits of mindfulness. And one of such is that it kind of helps you build up a working memory. You have so much clarity of thoughts. You have so much of mental solitude and fortitude. Like your brain begins to develop in a way that you feel like you're a genius by birth. Well, we are all geniuses, so let me say that. But, it kind of increases your level of happiness. You realize that every time you've been able to, sit down, reflect, think deep, reminisce, you realize that a lot of things inside of you is actually becoming a reality. Things are getting more interesting. Things are getting clearer and better. And this is what this entire lifestyle of ours is all about. So I believe that mindfulness really helps us to enhance the happiness in us, to solve problems and actually clear out anxiety, stress, depression, all those feelings of exhaustion, you feeling like an imposter, creative block, and everything you can associate with creative issues. Being mindful can actually help you do that. And for me, one way I've been able to see mindfulness is by reading a book, listening to soothing music. I listen to a lot of lo-fi music, a lot, and it has really helped me a lot. So if you consider all these few things I've talked about, you realize that creatives, we experience so much of drawbacks, we experience so much of issues, we experience so much of things holding us down. So what happens when you don't express or explore your creative side? So, there are these illustrations you see online that would show the left side of your brain and then the right side of your brain. One works with logical thinking and then the other one works with creative thinking. Now, why is it that way? If you can answer in the comments, I really appreciate that. Why is it that way? Because sometimes I just think like, what happens to the unused creativity in ourselves? It's like when you say, I want to die empty. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? But then the truth is, unused creativity is not good. Like, it doesn't make sense. Because eventually, it turns into grief. Sometimes it turns into rage, judgment. Sometimes it can be pain. It can be shame. It can be sorrow. We are creative beings by nature. So by nature, you have to be creative. So what happens when you are not creative? It means that you are denying yourself of the major part of your life. It's like you're telling yourself that you would never become who you're supposed to be. It's like you were born to be this person and then you realize you intentionally decide not to be that person. And what comes after all these things? A lot of regret, a lot of moping, a lot of pouting, a lot of being angry at people who didn't even do anything wrong to you. So you need to actually express your creative side. And the awareness that people around us are exploring their creative side is enough for us to want to get to that particular place of wanting to express our creative side. Like, you would see things like amazing things that people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and don't let me even talk about these big guys. People in your creative niche, people on Instagram like you, people creating content like you can see the amazing things you're doing, and then you decide to limit yourself. So it can start to turn into hatred, and then eventually it turns into this thing I call creative professional envy, where you so much want to be like that person that you begin to hate the person. So that's like a major downside to expressing your creativity or not exploring it, because it's a part of you. It is something inside of you. So while you're working on, as a full-time person, you're working at a 9 to 5, you can still balance it with a couple of maybe, side hustle. Explore your creative side. And talking about creativity right now, there needs to be a switch up. And to be able to understand this switch up, then you need to understand the benefits of being a creative, which is like the major talk. Excuse me. Now, I've tried to, really lay a foundation of everything I've been talking about since, but so I don't keep pushing this entire topic. The first thing is you have this sense of pride or this feeling of, awareness, like who you are. Like you can boast and be proud of who you are, being a creative. Automatically people think creatives are proud people, and it's true. Yes, we are proud of ourselves. We are proud of what we can do. We are proud of what we can achieve. And then most of all, we are proud that we are part of that generation making the major changes in the world today. And it's something you should be proud of. A lion would never, ever feel intimidated, because it doesn't have all the furry hair at the very beginning, because it knows that eventually those things will come. So yes, I said that we are proud people. And if you're a creative and you don't, exercise that part of yourself, let me just tell you, you're doing it wrong. Because it's really nice spending so much hours creating something, and then all of a sudden, eureka, like that idea just pops, and you're like, I'm so proud of myself. It's a really glorious moment. And this is one of the benefits of being a creative. You have that amazing thing to show off what you've done and actually be able to carry it on your chest and say, yes, I did this very, very fantastic thing. Then the second one is that you are able to create something special for people. Do you know the kind of joy that I see on people's faces every time I do a very lovely design for them? It's like heaven on earth. Like, I'm so happy and I'm so proud of myself, because I'm like, I did this thing for that person and the person was very happy. The person was jumping around. Like, I remember a particular branding job I did for someone, and then the very first revision we had to do, like I sent her the samples, 3 samples, and she was like, see, the very first one is exactly what I had in mind. And she making that statement just made a lot of sense to me. Like, wait, I've actually achieved a lot today, because just by that particular statement, it made my day. And I could see how she was very happy, very enthusiastic, and the project just went quickly, and we finished it in no time. So that is a really good part of being a creative, because it helps you see that you can actually create happiness for people. You can create joy in people. Like, someone reads your content on Instagram or somewhere and says, oh my God, you wrote this thing for me. Like, that part only is enough to actually keep you going in your creative career. But then let's not beat too much about that. The next one now is that being a creative actually offers you reduced stress, anxiety, and mood disturbance in a way. That's if you take care of yourself, if you prioritize your health, your mental health, your physical health, you exercise regularly, you eat healthy. I've done a couple of videos about this also. You can check it out. These things actually help you stay more creative. And if you actually decide to actually go all out with this creativity thing, you realize that this is actually worth it. Like, it is really, really worth it. So if you express your creative side every day, it reduces stress. Is when you are struggling to fit into a particular stereotype. That's when you start to have anxiety and stress. But then when it comes naturally to you, or you just want to just express yourself and live your life, you see that creativity is something that can actually help you drop all those unnecessary burden and unnecessary load. So I've heard several times that people would say creativity actually causes more issues than good. And I'm like, okay, well, you might be right for your own career anyway. But for me, I've seen creativity to actually help me live my best life. Like right now, if someone tells me or asks me, what other profession would you have gone for, as that's what you're doing right now, I would have told the person exactly the same thing. Nothing should be changed, nothing should be added, the same way it is. Because it's a journey I'm on right now, and I'm discovering who I am every single day. Like, it's beautiful. Honestly, it is very beautiful. So don't really focus too much on the bad sides of creativity, because if you do it right, you won't really experience too much of the ups and downs. Yeah, you definitely experience, tough times when you feel like you don't want to create. But then the truth is, creativity and imagination, there are things inside of us that if we use them the right way, then we can really start to beat down on, distractions, all those annoying things that just pops in your mind, all those feeling of not complete, of not being a creative and everything. So creativity is actually really good if you do it the right way. And, all these benefits kind of shows why you need to do it the right way. And then the next one is that it kind of makes you become a better problem solver. There is this thing that says, I have 99 problems. Well, it's good. But then, if I say the remaining part of that, you will just think I'm a crazy person. But then, if I have 99 problems, then that means I found 99 different ways not to do it right, not to do it again, which is good. But then the truth is, you become a little more resourceful and creative with figuring things out. As much as you create things. So you become a better problem solver because every day you express that part of yourself, and then it takes you very little time to figure out a problem and create a solution to it, because you've been doing this thing consistently for like the longest time. Let's not get into consistency right now, but creativity really demands a lot from you. It demands you to actually put yourself and your life into it. Like, putting yourself and your life into it is like just expressing that part of yourself. So creativity is a part of you, and if only you can express it, things will run smooth. And then this part is a crazy one for Nigerians, because time seems to run a lot. But then if you are creative, or if you decide to actually express the creative part of you, you kind of have more time to make things happen. For example, have you ever thought about juggling, going to school, running a side hustle, reading books, taking care of your family, and all those other things you need to do? But then if you're a creative, you have a little bit of time to take care of every part of your life. Now, realize that balance is not 50-50. Some things take more priority than others. Some things require more time than others. But then the truth is, you can actually create time for everything in your life and not let anyone miss out. It's just like having 4 children, and then one is 17, one is 13, one is 10, and then there is one that is 2. The kind of time you give to these different children can't be the same. Definitely the guy that is 2 will take up more time and energy and care than the one that is 17. And that's because of growth. That's because of priority. It's not like you don't love them equally, but the truth is some require more time or attention than the other. So with creativity, you get yourself to a point where you can easily just be aware of what is happening to you, which leads me to the next point. Creativity creates a lot of self-awareness and expression. I don't have to say too much about that. If you can really express your creative nature just by being yourself, a lot of things get solved. It creates a lot of clarity, and it makes you a better person in life. If you're creative and you work in the banking sector, it makes you a better banker because you see things from a different perspective. If you're a teacher and you're a creative, it makes you a better teacher. And for every other part of your life that's connected to you being a creative, it makes it better. For me, creativity makes me a better communicator, a better storyteller. It makes me a better designer. And then ultimately, it makes me a very good person to be with. Like, if you spend a day with me, you would know what I mean. Don't worry. Very soon, we would, probably have a physical gathering where we'll all get to chat and gist. And then, one of the most amazing ones for me is the freedom. Now, people think freedom is overrated for creatives, but the truth is, freedom of expression is well known, is in something, is like, we know it to be something we do every day, but then it rings the truth also. Like, you can gain a ton of freedom by tackling a new creative outlet of your life, figuring out how not to do something, how to do something right. And then this really helps you to, go a really wide angle. Like there is really no right or wrong with creativity because it feels good to be able to express yourself. So being free is quite important. I'll just run quickly through the remaining ones. It reduces stress, like I said earlier. It saves you a ton of money. Like, don't let me get started on how much creativity has saved me. If you look at my space right now, I built almost all my furniture myself. Like a table I'm supposed to spend, 45,000 naira to make, I made it with 7,500 naira. If you don't believe me, check out that video I made about how to make a table for yourself. So it saves you a ton of money. Simple things you can do that can really help you create these things. Like I'm starting a YouTube playlist called DIY in 2 minutes. Like everyday things you can convert into reasonable things. So it makes you really, really amazing. Like it makes things easy for you. Like it just makes things easy. It reduces a lot of stress. You can actually focus more on the things that bring value to your life and discard all those things that cause clutter and burden and annoying behaviors and anxiety. So it saves you a ton of money. And yeah, I think that's like one of the best points because people feel creativity is like expensive. No. If you can do it yourself with your hands and you have a can-do attitude, you have no limit. Now, as we're rounding up, how can you be creative or how can you be more creative? Because you are already creative by nature. But then how do you, enhance that part of yourself? How do you bring it out? And then the very first thing is don't do anything right now. Like, don't do anything. Like right now, as I'm speaking to you, just take like 10 seconds to just be quiet and relax. Let's do it together. All right. So take a deep breath. Let it out. So I'd like to know, how did that make you feel in the comments? Just try it out. How did it make you feel? Did you feel anything different, anything special? Did you connect with the quiet? Dimeji has been talking, for almost 30 minutes now. But then did it make you feel better? Did it change anything inside of you? Think about it. So after you've been able to do that particular part, you realize that sometimes just being still helps you become more creative. Just being, clear. Let your mind be free. It increases a lot of creativity. Then the next thing is start small. Little steps, one step after the other. It's like just take it one day at a time. Don't rush into anything. Don't try to be James Bond. Don't try to do everything in this world. Take it one step at a time. And then once you'll be able to do that, then start with someone else. Like work with someone, have an accountability partner. Don't do this thing all by yourself. For example, I don't do my podcast myself. I have, a guest I'm talking to. But you can imagine if I want to do 40 episodes myself, I'll break down because I've broken down several times. So try to have people you can always relate with. And this is the reason why it is very important to have a community you belong to. For as many of you that are actually in my community right now, it's amazing. Thank you so much. I also belong to some communities and, making sure that I'm not alone and I don't just kill myself with some of my ideas. It kind of helps me open up to be able to increase my chances of doing something right. And then number 4 is try something different. Like if you've been doing something the same way for like 15 weeks, try to switch it up and try something different. Like maybe go, buy a rotatable chair like this, swivel chair like I have, go pop painting, go hiking, just try a lot of things. Like these things really help you open your mind to, more possibilities. Like you have the freedom to express yourself in several ways that if the best of the best persons see what you're doing, they kind of, have this joy that, oh God, I'm doing something remarkable, and it creates a lot of advantages for who you are. So really master part of that part of yourself to be able to try something new, try different things. Like be able to express yourself in several outlets, read a book, go for a walk, go to a new restaurant, eat something new, as in go out with a friend, just try something new. Just scrap your routine for like maybe a day and figure out a new way to do something better. And this way you can actually be more creative. So we've come to the end, not end per se, because we're going into the Q&A session quickly and then the contributions. But then the truth is, if you can actually follow everything I've said in this entire live, you realize that you have, the upper hand of actually making a better life for yourself, being more creative. And this helps you, take a step further into, becoming so mindful of yourself that your phone becomes of very low priority, even though you're making money with it. But then the phone is just a tool. The main thing is your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, your person. So if your person is not fed and doesn't have the right tools or the right understanding, the phone won't be able to perform anything. So try to be mindful, get yourself into a space where you can actually be creative. And then everything I've said in the past, ways to be more creative. The first one, don't do anything, take some time off, start small, start with someone, and then try something different. So quickly, we'll be doing the question and answer session, contributions, and we'll be starting that right about now.